Governor C. Clyde, oh, I'm sorry, George has a card he's passing around for
Larry, where's
Larry
Bauer's daughter?
Larry Bauer's daughter passed
Right.
away.
Right.
Right. That's what that's for. Past District Governor C. Clyde Jones.
Well, thank you, President Betty. I'll try to keep my hands off the roster here today. She warned me last time that that's why the mic was doing so much feedback. I'm thinking that Betty giving me this opportunity to introduce our district governor is a sign of respect. And believe me, I need it because the PDGs are the Rodney Dangerfields of Rotary. I think some of you have heard me tell the story before of the district governor who arrived outside the hotel to go into the meeting, saw a man walking in, said, are you a member of this Rotary Club? And the guy said, yeah. He said, are you visiting today? The guy, well, yeah, I am. He said, well, you want to say for the program today is the district governor. And I take great pleasure and do want to show proper respect for District Governor John Donovan, a member actually of the Leavenworth Club. John describes himself as an Army brat, born in Würzburg, Germany, while his father was stationed there for the Army. Lived in Germany, France, around the United States until his dad retired, and then went to, and I'm very pleased to tell you, the University of Missouri, became a Missouri Tiger, graduated in 1980, and then spent 20 years in the Army himself. Artilleryman, operations planner, simulation expert, stationed or deployed in Europe, Asia, Africa, Southwest. His sheet here does not say Desert Storm, but I asked him, I said, were you in Desert Storm? He said, well, yeah, that and a couple of other things. So he's very modest and very quiet about that. After retiring from the Army in 2000, John and his wife Beth, son Andy, settled in Leavenworth, Kansas, to start their life after the Army. He joined the Leavenworth Club in 2000, just behaved like most of you as basic Rotarians, went to meetings, paid the dues when due, attended enough meetings so he didn't get kicked out for lack of attendance. And then all of that changed when someone came to him with the word please and said, please, John, we'd like you to join the Leavenworth Board of Directors for the Rotary Club. And John's one of these people that can't say no, and agreed to do that. And from that point on, his life changed. He really became an active Rotarian, working on committees at the district level, became club president, assistant governor, and now he finds himself in the role as district governor. I will tell you that right now he and his wife Beth live on a former dairy farm outside of Easton, Kansas, and get this, they keep horses, Angora goats, peafowl, bourbon red turkeys, ducks, chickens, guineas, and they are the staff for 4 dogs and 11 cats. And there's a cannon in the front yard, so beware. Let's show the proper respect and welcome District Governor John Donovan.
And see, Clyde, I have to tell you that I have been introduced by 3 district governors, and they all tell the hotel story. Hi, Manhattan. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
My family has a long relationship to this area. My grandfather trained for World War I at Camp Funston. My father commanded Headquarters Battery Division Artillery of what was then the 10th Infantry Division in the 50s before they went over to Germany, and then I got born. I discovered that the People think Kansas is flat, but when you're an ROTC cadet humping a rock up out of a valley, it is a distinction without meaning. Why? It may not be a hill, but it sure feels like one. I was also, if you're going to be one, be a big red one. No mission, too difficult. No sacrifice, too great. Out there in the 80s, I lived in Westchester, the Westchester apartments, which were brand new at the time, and I remember when the mall was built. And I witnessed a KU K-State basketball riot in Aggieville, complete with overturned burning cars. That was fun. In case I run out of time and you start leaving on me, which is okay. This is the bottom line of my message. Hopefully it'll be a little more fun than just this. But most important, my message to you is have fun. Rotary does serious stuff, but we have fun doing it. If we're not having fun doing it, you'll quit coming. Okay? Innovate. Be daring. And I have no doubt that President Betty will do that. I've had several interactions with Betty over the years. No shy retiring flower here. Okay? Do something new. Just almost randomly, and stop doing something old, especially if you don't know why you do it anymore. 6 months from now, you'll find out, oh, that's why we do it. Or you'll find out, who cares? But most importantly is act. Do it. Don't come to me for permission. You have my permission now. Come to me to be forgiven if you need it, but chances are that's not going to happen. You have the permission of Robbie Ravindran, our president, of Greg Pott, our director, and me to innovate and be flexible. The board is going to send to the Council on Legislation next year a proposal to basically say that. Clubs can do what they have to do. Be a good club. This is a manual procedure. How many of you have a copy? I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. You, I don't know, so I'll just, okay. It's available online if you want it. What it isn't is a straitjacket. It isn't an enforceable document where the Rotary police will show up. It is a guide. And if you can work your problems and programs through the four-way testing out into Rotary, no one's going to get too wrapped up about this. I actually have 3 copies of it, all 3 iterations in the last 10 years, because they come out every 3 years. This one's 26 pages shorter than its predecessor. They didn't do it just by changing the font. They actually much better written document. But it's a wonderful chronicle of the problems of Rotary as you see what the board has to deal with and how rules get changed. And I won't slander India, but oh wait. Okay. 1905, that's when we got started. When Paul Harris, Gus Blair, Sylvester Shealy, and Hiram Shorey got us all started. 4 relatively small town guys in big town Chicago who didn't really like how Chicago worked, but they were mainly they were lonely. And from that grew to now 1.3 million of us and 33,500 clubs. We had a member of my club, Buck Jones. He died in 2005, I think. He joined my club in 1929, was president in 1934. He shook Paul Harris's hand. So if you want to get a couple degrees separation, this hand shook the hand that shook Paul. I am a Rotarian nerd, I admit it. This is a book called This Rotarian Age. It's Paul Harris's History of Rotary. The name comes from a very angry article by G.K. Chesterton called This Rotarian Age, with just that attitude. Why do I have it? Aside from the fact it's really a fascinating read, is you all get to now see Paul Harris's signature. You can touch something Paul Harris touched, because he autographed this book. If you're a Rotarian nerd, do not get drool on my book. It was printed in 1935, and it's held up pretty well. Much better than most of us. You're not a singing club, yet you are, because you sang. Member number 5, Harry Ruggles, introduced singing. Why do I bring that up? I thought my club's a singing club, and I thought we were horrible. I realized we're the Mormon Tabernacle of Water. You guys aren't that. Garnett, so far, is the most horrible. Kansas City, Kansas, their song leader sings with gusto and absolutely no talent whatsoever. But they actually make much out of that. That's our first project. And what I like about this is really what Royal Brown said about it, past district governor from my club, Brendan C. Clyde. His attitude was, Rotary got its start relieving humanity. And we've been doing it ever since. Okay? I also bring it up to talk about Rotary Fellowships, the Rotary Global History Fellowship in particular, which has a very good article on this. And how they went about getting the buy-in, because believe it or not, it was controversial to provide a public toilet in Chicago in 1907. And the article on how to do that is a template for how to conduct a community needs assessment and get buy-in from the leadership. My club in Leavenworth did it 2 years ago. It wasn't a recruiting event. It was literally get the community together, talk about stuff. We've gotten 5 members out of it. We got visibility in places we hadn't had visibility, both of us and us into that. What they did that long ago is still very, very relevant as a way to go for us. 1914 is when Rotary started in what is now our district. It actually started in 13 in Wichita with a club sponsored by Oklahoma City. You guys are out of the Topeka. Topeka's gone over 100. Kansas City, Kansas goes over 100 in 1 January. My club goes over 100 on 1 April. I love my club's charter day. And you guys, of course, come up in 1917 along with Emporia.
And Junction City.
And Junction City is pretty close, if not in there, too. 1917, the genesis of the foundation, though, it didn't really start taking off in a big way until really 1957. But that really cheerful guy holding the pennants there is Arch Klump. He was the president. I bring this up because Kansas City 13, who is kind of the club for all of us, made the first donation of $26.50, almost $500 in today's dollars. Why is that important? Because Ray Klingon-Smith next year is going to ask you all to pony up $26.50 for the 100th anniversary of the foundation. In addition to whatever you're giving now. So if you're giving $100 now, you don't get away with $26.50, it'll be $126.50. And you'll probably want the club to come up with $2,650. All we can do is ask. On November 17, you guys chartered. And you have had your influence chartering some of the clubs north of this, like Blue Rapids and beyond. Who knows the story of the 4-way test? Past district governors don't count. That saves them the embarrassment of not knowing it. Okay?
That's why we had two Walgreens members, because Walgreens was involved in that.
Basically, Herbert Taylor was a Rotarian. He inherited a failing company. One of the reasons it was failing was the marketing division liked the routine. We make the bestest in the world at this, and you would get it and you would go, no. And so he applied for 4-way tests all through his business, and he walked the walk because he had an advertising contract. Guy won the bid, came back a little later and said, I made a math error. I will honor this contract, but it will put me out of business. Herbert Taylor said, that doesn't strike me as a good idea. That's not beneficial to all concerned, et cetera. And they renegotiated the contract. And both companies went on to storied thing. It's not until 1943 it becomes formally adopted by Rotary, and Herbert Taylor gave us the rights to it. Why is that significant? Because those spring butts in Kansas City, Missouri, also were the ones who proposed that we adopt a 4-way test. And you probably don't care, but you know who designed this flag other than your Manhattan, Kansas on it? Kansas City Club 13. All that stuff you deeply wanted to do. but most of you don't know. And I have the new members in the clubs I've given this pitch to go, I didn't know any of that. So that's one reason I'm doing it. I also am working in all my points. But the four-way test can be found all over. As a young officer, I found myself in the mountains of Peru working with the Peruvian Army as we were trying to train them, and we were also trying to train them not to go mess with the Ecuadorians and vice versa. On a mountaintop in Peru, I found a plaque with the four-way test. I wasn't a Rotarian at the time, but my father was. And that was the most unusual place I found it. Anybody here been to Cuba? I asked past District Governor Gary Dugan went to Cuba on a mission, and he found signs of Rotary all over everywhere. Because the Rotary Club of Havana, Cuba was the first non-English speaking Rotary Club. And yeah, people in Evanston are trying to figure out how to get Rotary back in Cuba. Just like we're actually getting fairly close through Gary Wang's efforts to get Rotary into Vietnam. 1937, Sea Clydes and my job was created. There actually were district governors before then. There were districts. The district that we were part of then was Nebraska, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma. I feel sorry for that district governor because most of the time that travel was by train. Cecil Howe of Topeka was our first district governor. How many people knew Fog Allen? He's been one of our district governors. How many knew Fog Allen? Okay, we got one. Got one. Even knew he was a Rotarian. He was also the foundation chair. Usually everybody's like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. Yesterday I ran into my first instance of someone going, he wasn't very good district governor. That's 3 or 4 I was born, I don't know. When you came in today, all those Paul Harris medals, they're mine. I told you I'm a nerd. From left to right, that was the first Paul Harris medal to the current Paul Harris medal. And if you notice, the newest one looks a little cheaper than the others, though I'll tell you, Cadaver Paul Harris, one of the big medallions, is kind of scary. That reflects the fact that the Paul Harris Fellow has been $1,000 since it was instituted. I am a major donor. That means my wife has let me give over $10,000 to the foundation. I am not a PHF +1 by that standard. So it's a cheap bargain. If you're not a Paul Harris Fellow, you ought to get one. This is a piece of trivia that just tickles me. Gordon Lowry of Valley Falls, still living, is the senior district governor alive in Rotary today. There are people who are older than him, like John Hollyman, but there's no one alive in Rotary who was a district governor before Gordon Lowry was. And he gave up being a district governor 29 days before I was born. Now I just like that. If you ever get the reason to go to Valley Falls, you're in the middle of nowhere, northeast Kansas, 6 o'clock on a Thursday evening, go to their meeting. He is a treasure to talk to. The other slightly depressing thing is all of my problems, all of Sea Clyde problems, were Gordon's problems. Some things are just universal in an organization like that. How does Rotary really work? Who has the most important job in Rotary?
Second.
Kind of, but I disagree. Right here. Because she is the one, the president, who keeps you all corralled. Kind of focuses you, chases after you and says yes, yes, or jumps in front of you wherever you're going and says, I'm the leader, follow me. Okay. But Rotary, the clubs is where the work of Rotary gets done. I don't do a whole lot of work. I approve some checks. I provide a lot of training, but you guys do it. And that's what makes her job the most important. And if anything, our pyramid is inverse with Robbie Ravindran supporting the directors, who support us district governors, who support you guys. And that really is how the leadership above you looks at it, with the exception of Rhode Island and Rotary in the British Isles, where district governors think clubs are their vassals. And that's why they're dying in the British Isles. But to illustrate this, let's talk women in Rotary and Polio Plus. In 19 1977, the Rotary Club of Duarte, California, admitted 2 women. When they reported in the Rotary, they just used initials for first names. Now, there had been 2 attempts in the Council on Legislation prior to that to welcome women in the Rotary that had gone down in flames. Rotary Club of Duarte said, we don't care. These people are good. One was a school superintendent, and the other was a banking executive. So comes an official of RI. If you read between the lines, it was that schmo, the district governor, who showed up for his visit and said, look at the Rotarians. And they went, no, we're members. And he went, no, I'm going to tell. And he did. And RI said, make them leave. And Rotary Club of Duarte said, take away from that. They lost their charter. They sued. We know the process. Lost in the state courts, went to federal courts, lost until they got to Supreme Court. By that time, Rotary had kind of read the tea leaves and were prepared for it. Comes the thing saying, where the Supreme Court basically said, save you all this, into this. Even by your own words and what you say you do, you should be allowing women in the Rotary. Do it. And the board released a policy change and said, in the United States, women are welcome to Rotary. At which point the Canadians went, hey dude, we got a law like that. Okay, in Canada too. North America! But it took until 1987 for the Council on Legislation to meet, and that's when the change came. And that's how it happened. But it happened because of the Rotary Club of Duarte, California, that said, this is stupid, we're going to do it anyway. Goes back to what I started with today. Polio Plus. How many people in here have been in Rotary since before 1984? Okay. For the rest of us, Polio Plus has been a top-down thing. But at the Rotary Club of Bulacan, the Philippines, in 1977, the big year for us, is the one who just said, we think we can do this. In the 60s, the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control and UNICEF got together in Atlanta, said, we have this cheap drug, doesn't take medical professionals, we ought to be able to take care of it. These countries that have first-class public health, they've done it, we ought to be able to do it as the rest of the world. The problem is, they were government people, they think like government people. I was a government people, I can say that. And they couldn't figure out how to hire 100,000 people, train them, clothe them, feed them, house them, dump them on the infrastructure of Africa in the 60s. And they said, it's too hard. Rotary Club of Bulacan said, we have this drug, it's easy, you know people, you've got friends, let's get our friends to help us, let's go drop 2 drops of this vaccine on kids' tongues, and put magic, we'll vaccinate our kids. They told their district thought that was a great idea, they did it, started to spread to the Philippines, they briefed it out at the International Convention. Dr. Carlos Canseco, a pediatrician from Mexico City, who was our president at the time, said, we ought to be able to do this. A bunch of smart guys got around the table in Evanston with an IBM PC and Harvard Graphics, generated tons of slides, and said, we can do it. Anybody know how long we said it would take? 5 years. Now, if they'd said 40, would we have done it? No, probably not. My point, though, is getting women in Rotary, getting African Americans in Rotary well before that, and Polio Plus, all club ideas, all driven from below. The work of Rotary is done in clubs. So in 2005, we finally got our first female governor, Sandy Rieger, followed by Vicki Randall and Rose Washop. Who here remembers Deb's pitch from last year? Anybody? Okay. I forgot to start like I normally start, which is the club will little note nor long remember what I say here. So I'll be brief, and that's why. Okay? I'll be pleased if you remember I was here last year. Next year. But that brings us to now, where the District of Fog Allen, home of KU and K-State, leading Kansas, set aside the Civil War and let a football-playing member of the University of Missouri be the district governor. That's a much bigger deal in Lawrence than it is here.
Yeah.
I have played in that stadium over there, not the new one, When I talk to people in Lawrence about it, I just look at their stadium and I get this distant look in my eyes. And their president last year was like, "Why aren't you paying attention to me?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just remembering the last time I was down there, I was listening to the lamentation of your women as we drove your men before us." Then I pointed at Allen Fieldhouse and said, "Don't know anything about that building." So, a little bit about me. Allow me to sing you the song of my people. I am an artilleryman. I was an artilleryman in the 80s. If you lived in Manhattan in the 80s, you heard me sing the song of my people, especially if you're on the west side. See, Clyde mentioned it. I am the only district governor in Rotary. I checked at International Assembly who has an actual functional cannon. I know how to use it. Trust me, I'm a professional. And I actually fired that gun 2 weeks ago in support of the Rotary Club of Kansas City, Kansas, starting the Missouri River 340. So I am probably one of the few combat arms officers who has provided vocational service to Rotary. I don't know how well you can see it, but here on the left, there is a little black goat who's sighting my cannon. Some lazy bucks underneath it. That is the rock in front of our house. Castle Arg is what we call the place. Arg. So those are the December crop of kids from 2 years ago. And the picture of the gun being fired, if you don't recognize her, that is past District Governor Vicki Randall, who, if you know Vicki, knows that that is probably the closest she has ever been to a functional firearm. So, C. Clyde can verify this for me. The governor's speech is usually, "You guys rock," membership, 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 foundation, 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 go to district stuff, do the convention, "You guys rock." Pretty much it. Okay? Okay, I'm done? No. Oh, I have a requirement. Peace fellowships. Peace forum. Peace scholarships. What else, Bill?
That's it.
What? Got them all?
Got him.
Good, good. Bill told me that that was the one thing I had to do in the speech before I was going to get down checked by him. But we are going to reprise the Peace Forum with District Conference next year. I am looking for people to help us do that because you guys have already done it. Not looking for you to be the ones to do it, but we need adult guidance. However, you guys ran a really good golf tournament last year, and I'd love to have you volunteer to run the golf tournament for us next year. Unfortunately, we're going to be forced out by Leavenworth because that's where we're going to have it. Under the "You Guys Rock" part, what I do here is I go to the web and I pick the big things, the first things people see about your club. Rotaract, Juneteenth, your golf tournament, yay for this conference support. Oh, and the great bid you guys did, that really was good. Please do that again this year. Free Skate Day, the Yellow Tag Committee, Change the World Sunday, the Ice Bucket Challenge, and you have really, really good programs. I realize I'm lucky you all let me show up today. But I didn't talk to you about the library as I understand the football coach did. So, foundation. You have 104 Paul Harris Fellows. You have 8 benefactors. I'm guessing the $1 Million Dinner had a lot to do with that. 4 in the Bequest Society. You have 2 major donors. In your club currently, 164 people are donors. You have 17 who haven't ponied up anything thus far this year. Not a number I would worry about until much later in the year. But you guys have given $473,000 over the life of your club to the foundation. Give yourself a hand. You also have, if you kick in another $2, the club has 10 Paul Harris Fellows that can give away. Don't have to give them to members. This is a report most of you can't see. Your foundation chair can, Betty can, your secretary can, and that's because what's below that header data is all your individual giving, which you can see on your donor history report.
Couple more minutes.
Okay? I'm working. You guys have the same problem all the bigger clubs have. You put a lot of effort into recruiting, but you got a lot of people going out the back door. I don't know that that's a problem. I know it's a waste, it's a drain on resources. That'll be a more discussion for the board. But the reason I put this up here is not to punish anybody, because that's not the intent. It's most of us don't see this number and you don't realize that these people dribble out week, month after month. But you guys recruited 52. Of the 52 you recruited in the last 3 years, you've lost 18 of them. And then you lost 48 members who've been members longer than 4 years or 3 years. Some people died. My year, I had 4 people in my club die, which took care of me meeting my membership goal. I finally instituted a policy that said, no dying without permission. Permit takes 6 months to process. It's written in Mandarin Chinese. There's 20 pages. Any error starts the clock over, and nobody else died that year. I am sure correlation equals causation. You don't really care about that. You might care about this. An average Rotarian's priorities are faith, family, however, whatever order that is, work, your local club, any major sporting event, any Hallmark holiday, boring school events you'd rather not go to, a colonoscopy, elective oral surgery, and then the stuff I host. Okay? I think you're making a mistake if that's how you look at it. You will grow more in Rotary and have more fun in Rotary if you step outside your club. If you go to the district events, like FML on Saturday, we're going to have a good speaker, and Alex, can't remember her last name right now, former talking head on television in Kansas City, who now does charity work she got into through her membership of Rotary, by the way. The district conference, you had good attendance of that last year. It's not hard when it's in your room. And you know, I get that. I talked to Johnson County clubs, and they're like, you should have a Johnson County, that's where we all are. I said, well, too bad. You can drive out to Manhattan, or at least it's an adjoining county. This much of Leavenworth touches that much of Johnson County. But go visit Blue Rapids, go to Marysville, go to Frankfurt, go to Junction City. Attend their meetings, talk to other Rotarians. You'll find it, it's a lot of fun. You'll also come back here realizing you eat the best in the district. Okay? So, what do? My job is to help her succeed. Your job is to help her succeed. Her job is to organize you and keep you doing what you do. Support the Rotary Foundation. And too often, district has been a place that gave you URLs, files, and rah-rah on the phone. We now have active programs we will bring to you. The Rotary Leadership Institute, membership cadre, and that stuff. We will bring you training. It may cost a little bit, $30 for basically you're paying for lunch. If you brown bag it, it'll be cheaper. But district actually does come bring you stuff. We understand that you're doing this in your spare time because we're doing it in our spare time. I'm still a member of my club. I did Topeka West yesterday morning and went to my own club meeting. But I really, really encourage you guys to step outside your club. Because the more I do it, the more I want to do it. I'm also the public face of Rotary. I'm sorry. But we did my installation was a Polio Plus event with the T-Bones. I got to talk to 7,000 people who I'm sure didn't pay attention to what I said. But what's important is I did a first pitch. My ball went from my hand to the catcher's glove, didn't bounce. I'm sure it was a whopping 35 miles an hour. There's a video on the district website if you'd like to see it. But I do other things like that as well. But RILA, Youth Exchange, some of the foundation stuff we did was also part of the public image piece. Really don't care about that. How many of you ignored the email I sent you 3 weeks ago? How many of you read the email I sent you 3 weeks ago? How many of you are even aware I do email? How many of you gave a bogus email when you signed up? Or if you've been a member for 30 years, you haven't updated an email. In there was discussion of Rotary Global Rewards. Rotary is like AARP, we have a reward program. Okay? David Huston from Western Johnson County is the district chair. He's actually used it, says it works pretty well. Here's the kicker, we make you go to Rotary.org because there is an app, but for you app types, it doesn't work very well. And as I see people melting away, we're done. have fun, everybody. That's the most important thing. We can do serious stuff, but we not need to have fun doing it. Innovate, act, but have fun. Subject to your questions. I'm done.
Any questions? All right, thank you, John.
I
Governor John, it's
love them still.
always good to have you here. It's always good to have you here.